Now hold on, when you look at business or personal life, it might not be sexy to have those sort of problems that you deal with every day. There is a quick solution to be able to handle those. That can be found with a SWOT analysis. First off, what does SWOT stand for? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We're going to take a deep dive to see just what you can do to identify the root cause of any problem and how you can fix it. Now, before I dive too far into this, if this is a problem that you think applies to you, make sure you smash that subscribe button so that we can continue to bring you incredible content on how to handle everything from investing, modern day education, economics, finance, management, marketing, and everything in between. Now, I know we already talked about what a SWOT analysis is. Now we want to look at the benefits of conducting a SWOT analysis, and those range from business problems to individual problems to relationship issues. Strictly from a business perspective, we can use this SWOT analysis to identify holes in a potential business plan or idea while simultaneously solving for the right person to be in that driver's seat. When looking at a personal SWOT analysis, we might be able to find potential hiccups in that friendship or that relationship. We might even find new ways to bond between one another that you never knew before. This might even just be as simple as finding what role you best fit in or that person best fits in. When we look at this strictly from a personnel perspective, we get to see, is this the right person for this seat? Is the potential learning curve going to be greater than the intended output that individual will be able to use? Looking at the time value of the investment in that person versus the ROI of the learning that you're going to be putting forth to that individual. Lastly, we can see, is the upside higher than the potential challenges that we might face should we select this individual. Now, I want to look at a couple different examples of a SWOT analysis so that you guys can see this being taken from a theoretical conversation that we're having right now into a practical application of what we can expect in the real world. We all know Coca-Cola, and that actually leads right into one of the first strengths that we talk about right here, that powerful brand recognition on a global scale. It's not just known in the US, it's not even just known in the Eastern Hemisphere, it's known all over the world. That really helps them get that 43% market share in the soft drink industry. But they even go beyond that to have a variety of products across multiple platforms, not even just soda, but digging into different food categories, digging into different entertainment categories, and everything of the likes. Quite possibly, though, one of the biggest strengths that we see with Coca-Cola is their secret recipe for their soft drinks. And the way that they've been able to do this is simply by never applying for a patent. By simply not filing for a patent, Coca-Cola has been able to do a great job of keeping their recipes under wraps. They can never be replicated, never be stolen, simply allowing that to play right into their strengths. On the flip side of things, that brings us to the weaknesses that Coca-Cola has. Probably the biggest one that we hear over and over again is that difficulty within the health industry. There are so many problems with soda, the sugar context, the caffeine, the carbonation, all of these things. While there are substitutes for sugar, such as sucralose, there are a lot of complaints from the individuals that drink that, saying it doesn't quite taste the same. It's not really the same drink that they did fall in love with. That also leads them into the difficulty of trying to change their current positioning or their customer attitude toward the company. Coca-Cola has branded themselves as a soft drink company. That means that when people think Coca-Cola, they automatically bring it to the soda. That definitely closes the door on a lot of other potential opportunities that they could take advantage of. Now, what they can take advantage of is this idea of increasing their market share by being able to listen and adapt to either health trends, to what their individual competitors are saying or doing, to what their customers are requiring or what their customers are looking for. And the really good opportunity for Coca-Cola is that there are few competitors along the way. We see a lot of big brand companies like Pepsi, like Dr. Pepper, all having their own individual input for what they want to do. But in terms of big players, Coca-Cola really is one of two. Lastly, that brings us to our threats. The threats are, again, positioned in that health industry. There aren't really many healthy alternatives to that Coca-Cola or other soft drinks. It's known for having that sugar. It gets the taste for having that sugar, which causes them to have a lot of negative press, a lot of negative media coverage, and a lot of potential harm that could affect the brand in a way in the long run. Now that you know what a SWOT analysis is. You've seen it put into example. I want to show you how to identify where you fall in each of those categories in 30 seconds or less. Now, 3 things to help you identify your strengths in 30 seconds or less. Asking the people that you work with. They're going to be a strong insight seeing the way that you work every single day. Number 2, make a list of what you think you are good at and rank those in order of which one you think you're best at and which one has the largest room for growth. Number 3, take a personality test. See what that personality test says. You might just learn something about yourself. Now we want to look at potential weaknesses. Before you get worried thinking that there are weaknesses and they are a problem, I just want to help you understand that in my mind, I look at weaknesses as areas for growth. So keep that in mind as we talk about weaknesses. It's not necessarily a negative. It's simply where you can improve. First and foremost, make a list of the last 5 negative thoughts that you can remember. In those 5 lists, identify trends if they're coming from an individual, if they're coming from a group of friends or an activity, something that you are doing. Find the trend, and that might help you understand better what that negativity is. The next idea here is looking at how you work in a team. Are you one that dominates the work? Are you one that assigns all the roles? Are you one that sits back and allows others to tell you what they want you to do? Or does it usually end in just a knockout brawl where nobody is happy and people are blaming each other for the work that was done? This last one is probably the best indicator of where you are in terms of your weaknesses. If you were given a task and told it would take 30 hours to complete and you had 1 full week to do it, what steps would you take to solving that problem? Procrastinate, get it done right away, section it out. What does your process look like? How can we make it more efficient? Then how do we look at opportunities in just 30 seconds? Every single idea that we come across, is there a gap in the market where there is a potential for either competition, a more effective way to do something, a more efficient way to do something? That leads to an opportunity. The biggest way to identify opportunities, and I cannot stress this enough, is looking up what others have done before to get some historical background on what's worked, the way that they used innovation in their process, or even creativity in their process, to identify new solutions for those opportunities in which you can then use to identify opportunities for yourself. Finally, that brings us to the idea of threats. How to identify threats in 30 seconds or less. Ask yourself, what is preventing you from doing this thing right now? Why have you not started it? Is it human capital? Is it financial capital? Is it the knowledge that you have? What is preventing you from taking that next step? Maybe there's some sort of red tape or bureaucracy in the way that's stopping you from getting to your end goal. Are there ways around that red tape, or is that an indication that it is not a path forward that you should be looking into? The last step to threats would be in terms of sacrifice. What area would take the largest requirement of resources for you? And are you ready, both mentally, physically, emotionally, all of the above, prepared to make that investment in that area as much as necessary to achieve the end result? Now we've broken down the SWOT analysis. Now we want to look at how to use the entire analysis to make decisions in 60 seconds or less. Number 1, check to see if your strengths align with what the end goal is in a seamless way. Seamless being there are very few hurdles to jump to hit that end result. Number 2, do your weaknesses prevent you from getting to that end goal in a realistic way? That brings in the idea of, should I bring in another person to help me achieve that end goal, such as a business partner, a life partner? We also want to look at the opportunities that are available and say, are those opportunities worth it, regardless of what the potential challenges or hurdles that we may face are? And lastly, one of the most important, again, are those threats. Is the reason there are not more people competing for that market share because of the potential threats in that market? Now, as we continue that conversation of business and decision making, one really important thing to understand is that adoption curve. If you're trying to understand where new customers can come in, make sure you guys click subscribe right here and check out our next video on the adoption curve, the idea of the invisible chasm.